happenings from yesterday and what's going on right now in the NFL, different playoff scenarios, just everything covering today's games and Week 18 in the NFL and what our projections for the playoff are going to be like. Let's dive right into it. Steven, welcome. It's been a little longer than we anticipated, but me being in the hospital with the baby mama and the baby, uh, we're getting to it though. How you doing today?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, I'm excited to be talking about some football, watch some football.
Oh yeah. Well, let's just start it off with I got the Jags game up on the screen here that everyone can see right now. Um but let's dive right into the games yesterday where we seen first and foremost the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens, obviously a Baltimore Ravens team that had a lot of its main guys out starters wise. I mean, obviously, they had Marcus Williams, Patrick Queen, but it's not like that was a full team with Lamar Jackson, and you didn't have all your stars studded out there, and obviously, barring an injury, in a meaningless game for Baltimore. Pittsburgh showed up and did what they had to. Turnovers were a big deal in that game for both teams. It didn't seem like anyone wanted to hang on to the ball. Um,
No.
a huge blow to the Steelers with T.J. Watt going down with an injury. That's very unfortunate, especially in a game where they needed to win and they need a little bit of help to get into the playoffs. And him going down, I mean, they said it's an MCL sprain, grade 2, which they said it's a couple weeks of rest. If they do make the playoffs, it looks like they're going to be without him for that next playoff game. But TJ Watt is superhuman, so I mean, he may be out there for that game if they get into the playoffs for that game. Who knows what will happen? But what's your thoughts? Obviously, another big factor. The weather was horrendous at M&T Bank. It was bad. I don't know if anyone watched the game or not, but that was just a bad bad weather game. It was ugly down there. Um, but what's your thoughts as far as like with the Ravens? Do you see them struggling? Like I know everyone's going back to Lamar's MVP season and how the Ravens had the bye week that year, and then they came out and the Titans came out and just nuked on them and blew them out. Do you see them coming out with all that rust like they did a few years back, or do you think that they are in the right mindset now with a couple years under their belt and Lamar knows and sees, and he probably takes the game differently now with a couple years under his belt and knows like I got to be on top of my A game and being that I'm going to be resting for 3 weeks, do you see them coming out flat footed? Do you think they come out firing on all cylinders like they've have all year?
Man, I think they're gonna be more prepared this time around. Like you said, Lamar's a few years in. Just he really seems locked in this year. I mean, the whole team does, to be honest. And yeah, I would kind of like to see them play like, the starters for like a series. Just like the first possession, run the ball a few times, just kind of get out on the field and get in the flow of things. But I mean, they got the bye. We'll be at home, So I mean, there could be a little bit of rust, but I'm not super concerned about it. Hopefully, be able to get Mark Andrews back and get him and Likely both on the field at the same time and start to make some noise.
I think that's a big thing for the Ravens coming into this is that they need to obviously. I mean, this is apparent. They need to come in and not be flat footed, but I think they need to figure out how Tom Munkin needs to figure out how to have Mark Andrews and Likely on the field because Likely has just been incredible over these last. I forget how many weeks Mark Andrews has been out, but he's just been absolutely outstanding and incredible with him just receiving the ball, his plays he makes in the running game. He kind of stretches the field for them, and I mean, I think that in my eyes, what should happen, I think, is they come out and Mark Andrews is kind of more on a limited role. He's not playing that 100% like he usually is, and maybe he
Yep.
plays on like a 40% of the game and Likely plays at 60%. But if they go deep and make a run, they need to figure out how to have both of them on the field and getting both of them involved because Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely is showing exactly why the Ravens brought him in and when they drafted him.
No, I agree, man, 100%. I totally agree. I think that one thing they need to do too is they need to kind of get that run game going again. Like they they've kind of stalled with the run game, and they've kind of reverted back to passing, which has worked out well for us. But I don't want to become like one-dimensional and just put the whole game on Lamar. I want to be able to get the running backs involved. Justice Hill's been playing really well. Gus Edwards all year has been playing really well. So get that run game going. Get Mark Andrews out there. As long as he's, like you said, he's most likely going to be limited, at least for that first game. So having a guy like Likely to come in there, take the pressure off, and he's basically a big receiver. I mean, he's unbelievably athletic, and some of the catches and the plays he makes is just, it's mind blowing for a guy that size. So
Absolutely.
You get him, Zay Flowers, OBJ, Bateman, get all them going, get the run game going. I mean, I'm excited for it. I am.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you to the fullest on that. Now let's go over to the other team that obviously beat a second string team yesterday. What's your thoughts with the Steelers? I mean, the run game has been absolutely terrifying. I mean, it's been rolling for Pittsburgh, and it's just opening up this passing game. I mean, Deontay Johnson goes off yesterday, 4 catches, 89 yards, which it's a bit inflamed in a terrible weather game on the 1 catch for 71 yards he caught on a slant and took off. But, I mean, it seems like everyone's getting involved. Pat Freiermuth, Allen Robinson, Deontay. George Pickens was held without a catch yesterday, but if you watch the game, he was on the sideline motivating his teammates, staying locked in. It's not none of this baby stuff that they talked about with him. I think that the organization had a talk with him and said, look, not every game you're going to have 4 catches, 100 yards, or 10 catches, 10 targets. I mean, he wasn't targeted one time yesterday. He had one play where he got a first down and it extended a drive, which was big for Pittsburgh. But the run game with Najee, it seems that they have figured it out. There's a couple times during the game where they do try to run pitch plays, which Jaylen Warren should be that guy, not Najee. But when they're running between the tackles, Najee's averaging 3, 4, 5, 6 yards a carry. And they're just playing big boy football. Do you think that if the Pittsburgh comes back healthy, let's say we get, I'll even take T.J. Watt out. Obviously, everyone knows T.J. Watt can change a game at any point in time. He can change a game. But if we get Minkah back on that defensive back end, we leave Pat P at safety with Minkah. Do you think that the Steeler team, the way the offense has been rolling, do you think that they could they be a threat to some of these teams? And do you think there's any teams in the AFC that going into the playoffs, they're like, I don't want to play Pittsburgh. They're rolling right now with Mason at the helm.
I'll be honest though. I think the Steelers are going to be one of them teams where it's like, I think when they get to the playoffs, I think people are going to kind of be like, we got them. I think people are going to sleep on them. Yeah, they're going to sleep on them. And like you said, they get back to running. They keep running the ball like they are. Keep feeding Najee, spell him out with Jaylen Warren. I mean, that's just unstoppable in itself, but then it frees up the rest of the field. And like we talked about a minute ago, the weather was so crappy that trying to throw the ball as Mason Rudolph and trying to get, George Pickens the ball and everything and trying to make plays to get him the ball in his hands. The weather played a big factor in that.
Right.
Yeah, it played a big factor, but you get Freiermuth involved. That offensive line's playing really well. I feel like they've really bounced back after kind of a lackluster start to the season. But we talked about it before. The way that they're running the offense now, Najee's going right up the middle. He's playing power football. He's not doing this, running these counters, side to side, toss plays. That's not Najee's game.
Right.
Najee's a between the tackles guy. He can go off tackle, but he's a downhill runner. He's not a side-to-side shifty guy. So if Pittsburgh keeps playing like that and TJ somehow, can play or at least limited, get Herbig involved, I mean, I think the Steelers can make some noise in the playoffs. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just me being a Steeler fan, obviously. I just think that exactly what you said, that everyone's going to sleep on Pittsburgh and them. It's Pittsburgh. We're not worried. They're going to look to next week, and that's whenever teams get in trouble. They look ahead to an opponent, and then they look and they're like, oh, next thing you know, they're down 21-10 at halftime. They're like, whoa, wait a minute, like we got a game here. We're playing a team that we didn't think could do any of this. So definitely a dangerous combination, especially a team that. Honestly, just a couple weeks ago, I'll say it to this day, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. And if they don't make the playoffs, they don't make the playoffs. It's just it is what it is. Pittsburgh played 2-10 teams back to back. They lost both of them, and it wasn't like they lost close games like on a fluke play. I mean, the Patriots and the Cardinals manhandled Pittsburgh, and that's just what it is. Um, I'm a realistic fan. I am black and gold till the day I die, but it's just a fact. It's just what it is, and um, honestly, if you look at the stat line, which I have up, the Pittsburgh had 6 fumbles yesterday. 6. They only lost 2, which is they lose all 6 of them balls. Baltimore might beat Pittsburgh by 30. I mean, and I get it. Football, the the weather played a huge fact, and I mean, I don't care who you are. That that weather is bad. It was just coming down in sheets, and it's hard to hold on to that ball. I get it, but ball control's got to be one big thing. A lot of people want to throw the issue of, oh, well, Kenny Pickett doesn't turn the ball over. Well, clearly Mason Rudolph doesn't either, and Mason Rudolph has had a 300-yard game, another 300-yard game with 2-3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And yesterday, even with the piss poor weather, he was 18 for 20, which I actually didn't know until just now. That's pretty remarkable going from the weather they were playing in. But I don't want to stick too much on the Steeler Ravens. Obviously, it was a meaningless game for the Ravens. It was meaningful for the Steelers. It would have tickled Harbaugh and all the Ravens in the world, fans in the world, if they would end up squeak out of there with a win and eliminate Pittsburgh. But they were locked in. They knew they were locked in, and they got that first seed. And it's time for Ravens to get their head right and watch some games, see who they're going to end up matching up with, and hopefully they don't come out flat-footed and they can continue their dominance. Moving on to the Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts. Man, what a game! C.J. Stroud coming out, first play from their first play from scrimmage, and throws a nuke to Nico Collins for 75 yards and a touchdown. I thought the floodgates were about to open up, but Indianapolis buckled down and they did their damn thing. What was your thoughts on that game yesterday, especially with D'Amico Ryans leading that Houston Texans team to their first playoffs appearance since 2019?
Man, I'll tell you what, D'Amico Ryans is really doing the thing over there in Houston, and I'm really excited about that team. I really like they have a very young team. C.J. Stroud looks like a seasoned quarterback out there. I mean, I think that Houston's not one of those teams that could surprise a lot of people in the playoffs and catch people off guard in that. I couldn't imagine if they had Tank Dell still. You know, that was a huge loss for them.
Yeah.
Huge loss. But Nico Collins he's been playing great all year, but man, he's really stepped up since then. My big thing with Houston is I like Singletary and I like Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce didn't have a touch yesterday. And I'm like, man, you got to get that running game going. If Houston can get the running game going and that defense plays like it has been, I think that Houston can make a lot of noise. I really do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the biggest Achilles heel for Houston right now is giving up big plays.
Yes.
And it showed yesterday. Jonathan Taylor, 30 carries, 188 yards, and a touchdown. That's been their Achilles heel all year. They can throw the big plays. They can hammer teams, put up all the points in the world. But on the next possession, they give up a 50-yard bomb or a 49-yard run, or they give up them big plays. And if they can get that figured out in that secondary and tackling in the running game, I think the Texans can surprise some people going into the playoffs. And if they get knocked out in the first round, man, hats off to that team. Everyone knows I hate Justin Fields or C.J. Stroud just because of Ohio State. I'm not an Ohio State quarterback fan. I think they all are trash. I don't think there'll be a quarterback that's good enough. But C.J. Stroud's making a case to prove me wrong. And hats off to him, man. I was texting you during the game, and C.J. Stroud's a baller, man. And I'll give credit where credit's due. And that man is he's incredible. He looks amazing. He's making all the right reads. He's making all the right throws. He looks poised in that pocket like a veteran quarterback. But I honestly feel that the Texans, if they get bounced in the first round, hats off to D'Amico Ryans and that team's going to come back with vengeance. And I think with how young they are, they're gonna be a scary team in that AFC for a long time.
Man, I agree. And another team that, in the same game, but the Colts, man. I don't think the Colts can really be understated for what they've been able to do this year either. Shane Steichen has had a really good first year as their head coach, and losing Anthony Richardson, that was just
Huge
what a
blow.
blow, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge blow. It was really sad to see because coming out of college, everybody they were really hard on Anthony Richardson. Being a boomer bust guy, he's huge, he's fast, he has a cannon for an arm, but can he make those plays as a quarterback? Can he make those throws, make those reads and stuff? And he was playing really well. And to lose him the way that they did, but to still, I mean, they've been beating teams. They beat the Ravens. I mean, they've been beating teams. They've been staying competitive in games and everything. And I think that with Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor's healthy, and like you said a second ago, I mean, he looked great last night. If they can build off of that next year, get Anthony Richardson back, I hope it's not a Cam Newton type deal where he has the shoulder surgery and he's just not the same.
Yes.
But that Colts team, they're hats off to Shane Steichen, man. I mean, they went through a lot of adversity this year, and he's really gotten them rolling. And I think too, when you look at the Texans, back to the Texans real quick, Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator, he's making a name for himself, and he may end up being a head coach candidate sooner rather than later. So I don't know. It's don't sleep on the Texans and the Colts, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the Colts, I do believe they're eliminated from the playoffs. Texans, obviously, the win put them in, and they could actually win the South if the Jaguars lose, which is just crazy to think about all these different scenarios that are going on around the league. It's nuts. But yeah, with Indianapolis, and this isn't discrediting Gardner Minshew. I mean, he came in as the backup to AR, and I mean he's done the damn thing. He's kept them in games. They've lost a lot of close games this year, and it's another young team. And you figure how many games was Josh Taylor out, or Jonathan Taylor for the Colts? He was out for
first 4 weeks, and then he had a thumb injury and was out for a minute with that too. So yeah, he was.
So that's a blow right there in its own with your starting running back, who, don't get me wrong, nothing against Zach Moss. Zach Moss at the beginning of the season was running wild, but Jonathan Taylor, I mean, it's Jonathan Taylor. He's right up there with Nick Chubb and the best of them, Derrick Henry. JT is an absolute dog, and he showed that he's back to his normal form last night against that Texans defense, which is actually a really good run defensive team, and they could not stop him. They didn't have an answer for him. But those two games, congrats to the Texans getting in. Pittsburgh, they're waiting in the balance. They have some scenarios that they need to happen. And with that being said, we'll roll right into the next segment. One of the scenarios for Pittsburgh, since we're on the topic, is the Titans if they beat the Jaguars, Pittsburgh's in. And it locks Buffalo in as well if the Jaguars win. If the Jaguars end up beating the Titans, the Buffalo Bills need to lose to the Miami Dolphins for Pittsburgh to get that spot. So right now, with it up on the screen, the Jaguars are losing currently to the Texans 21-13. The Titans have looked really good. The Titans are rolling. The running game's rolling. It's going to be interesting. As a Steeler fan, obviously, I'm pulling for these Titans. I want Vrabel to defy all odds and beat these Jaguars, which me and you've talked about. They're so wishy-washy, and honestly, if they do get in, I don't know if anyone's even scared of the Jaguars because of how wishy-washy they are. Some reason I just looked at the thing. Oh, Derrick Henry just went up the middle for 69 yards down to the 4-yard line of Jacksonville.
Ooh,
so
Henry rolling.
There you go. The Tennessee Titans are rolling. Derrick Henry, 11 carries, 141 yards, and a touchdown right now. Man, what an upset that would be. And nothing would tickle Mike Vrabel more than to knock out a divisional opponent completely out of the playoffs. I mean, it knocks them out. Which is mind blowing to even think of. Because the Jaguars were hot. They were rolling, and then it's just they'd been downhill slide since. Um, but so another game, another key game that's going on right now is the Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints. It's tied up 17-17. They both need this win desperately, obviously. Let me see if I can find it here. I have it. Yeah, so the Falcons, they have to win the division to get in. And they would have to win today, and then the Buccaneers to lose. And I believe that's the same exact scenario for the Saints. The Saints have to win, and the Buccaneers to lose, or they can tie, and the Buccaneers lose. And then New Orleans can clinch playoff berth also if with the Saints win and the Seahawks loss and the Packers loss. So they have a couple different scenarios there. The Falcons, we've talked about the Falcons. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm not a big on the Falcons. Their head coach, I'm not big on. Ryan Tannehill touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins, 28-13, Titans. So it's just one of them things where the Saints have had a lot of diversity this year. We've talked about it in the last podcast about how the mixing Taysom Hill in there and Derek Carr going out, and then he goes in and then he goes out, and there's just you can't get a rhythm like you stated, and it's tough. It just seems like that division is very weak. What's your thoughts?
Yes.
Do you think the Buccaneers actually they're in the talks as well? The Buccaneers are currently up right now, I believe 6-0. It's halftime. Yeah, 6-0 in the third quarter over the Carolina Panthers. If the Buccaneers win, the Saints and the Falcons are playing for nothing. The Buccaneers are in, but actually the Saints can still get in with a loss from the what was it from the a loss from the Seahawks and a loss from the Packers, or a tie on both games. So that division's very soft. What's your thoughts on that division? Which team do you think has more of a playoff team? If any of them are more, you think in your eyes is better, Tampa Bay Saints or the Atlanta Falcons? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh man, that was a that's a loaded question, man. That, like you said, that conference is pretty soft, and the way that they run, the way that those teams are run, it's just it's hard to say which team would be considered like the best. I think right now the Buccaneers, the way that defense is, Rashad White's been having a really solid year, Mike Evans and that. So I would probably go with the Bucks to edge out the Saints. But I'll be honest with you, if you got to play against one of those teams in the playoffs, I don't think you're overly concerned.
That's kind of where I'm at. The biggest thing for teams in the playoffs, I think, would be the the Saints defense. I think the Saints defense is scarier than the other two. But other than that, I don't think that there's anything that's like, oh man, like that team could be dangerous, because the Saints offense really hasn't showed much throughout the season that they can score with the best of them, or their defense can hold them all game, and the Saints offense can go down and take that lead, and they can hold that lead just because the offense just isn't that potent, and they're without Kamara. There's no idea if he's going to be back if they make the playoffs. I don't know what his injury designation is right now at this moment, but it's one of them things where their offense just isn't scary.
No.
So moving on, we got a meaningless game in Cincy. Cincy's thumping the Browns, but I don't think that there's a single starter in Cleveland playing. Detroit with Minnesota. They're up. Detroit's up 13-6, and if I'm not mistaken, with some help, the Detroit Lions can get up to second place, I believe. And I think Detroit I think they would need Dallas to lose and the Eagles to lose also, maybe? Yeah, I think yeah. So for the Eagles, they would have to win and the Cowboys loss for them to claim the division. and then they would need, and then also uh, with the Lions to move up to that second seed, they would need both teams to lose to put them ahead of both of them. Which, I mean, crazier things have happened. The Dallas Cowboys are heavily favored over the Commanders. I think they're like 12.5 or 13, something like that. Uh, but it's one of them games where I think Detroit's happy where they're at. They're not too concerned. Either way, they're in the playoffs. They won their division. What's your thoughts on Detroit? Do you think that they can make a run? Do you think they can go deep in these playoffs and shock a lot of people, depending on who they match up with? I don't think they match up well with San Francisco, but I think they can match up with any other team in the NFC. Obviously, San Francisco being the juggernaut of the NFC, but do you think that do you think we could potentially see a Detroit Lions Dan Campbell led in the NFC Championship trying to get to that Super Bowl?
I'll be honest. I do believe in. I believe in the Lions, man. I do. I think that they're going to go as far as Jared Goff's going to take them. I think that he needs to play mistake-free football. He needs to make the throws when they need to be made. He needs to get the touchdowns. He needs to, he just needs to not turn the ball over and kind of let David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and them pound the rock, man. And the other thing too is the Eagles are playing the Giants and the Cowboys playing the Commanders, man. Those are division games. So the Eagles haven't been playing well. Um, I don't know what the heck happened to that team, but they just haven't been playing well. And the Cowboys against Commanders, once again, those are both division games. So there's nothing that would make the Giants and the Commanders happier than to beat the Eagles and the Cowboys in Week 18.
Yeah, I mean I agree. I don't think there's any notion of the Cowboys taking any players off for rest. And obviously I think that is just because of them having the chance to win that division. Obviously, if they lose and the Eagles win the division. So I think that's kind of why. But I think that they're both 425 games. I think that in halftime, someone in the organization is going to be like, "Hey, the Cowboys are up by 20 points at halftime. Jalen Hurts is going to get sat down. Your starters on the Eagles are going to get sat down, I think. But if it's a close game or them Commanders have a 3-point lead, I think you'll see coming out of the locker room the Philadelphia Eagles keep them starters in trying to win that game, to potentially win that division. But if, like I said, if it is a blowout in Washington, then I believe that you'll see some starters sat down. So there's your little tip. Be leery if you're betting on some fantasy football on DraftKings or FanDuel. Be leery of taking any Eagles, because I have a feeling if someone from the staff and the organization comes in and says that it's a blowout and Dallas is killing them, I think your starters are going to get pulled. So there's your little fantasy football tip of the day. Um, what else we got? What other games we got? Let's see what other playoff scenarios we can have. The Seahawks can clinch a playoff berth with a win and Packers loss. They can also, with a tie, a Packers loss and a Buccaneers loss or tie, and so they have a chance. They're on the outskirts. Losing to Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago really hurt that team's playoff chances, I believe. Um, they a team they just didn't look great this year. They were very up and down. Their run game looked very good, but I feel like it just seemed like they were giving up those big plays. They weren't winning them close games. Um, what is your outlook on the Seahawks? Um, do you think, obviously they gave Geno that big contract? Do you think that they're having questions about Geno? Do you think that the offense may be sputtering? I mean, it's not like they don't have weapons on the offensive side of the ball. They got DK, they got Jackson and Jigba, they got Lockett over there still. They have Kenneth Walker. I mean, they got pieces. Do you think that maybe the Seahawks are looking at maybe pulling the plug with Geno, or do you think it's more of it's a time for Pete Carroll's time in Seattle's up? What is your outlook with the Seattle Seahawks?
I think Geno Smith is. I think he's just Geno Smith's just Geno Smith, man. I mean, I think he's a bridge quarterback. They don't have They don't have I don't think Drew Lock's the answer, so I'm not even going to get into that debate.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they don't have a bridge guy, man. You know, they don't have a guy. They don't have a young quarterback that's kind of like learning the system or anything like that, where Geno can be like, you know, at the helm for a year or two, let the young guy take over. They don't have that. But yeah, like you said, I mean, that offense is honestly stacked, and defense gives up a decent bit of points, which is kind of surprising given the fact that their defense on paper is star-studded. As far as Pete Carroll, I don't think that Pete will be out necessarily. I just think that the Seahawks just don't have any continuity. They don't have the consistency. They need to keep when they're force feeding DK the ball, other plays open up. Once they start doing that, you'll see like Kenneth Walker will start to get loose, you know, and then Tyler Lockett's open, and here comes JSN out of the slot. Like it's happenstance for whatever game they play, but they're capped by Geno Smith. And I think they kind of knew that going into the year, but they were hoping that the weapons around Geno would be enough to kind of like push them and get them, you know, far enough.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I like that the bridge comment, not having a guy that's behind Geno learning. Do you think that maybe in the draft they look at maybe trying to get a quarterback in the second, third round, if obviously dependent on who's there, and if there's someone that is and on their appetite of someone they see potential in that could potentially be that leader going forward?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'll be honest. I think this coming draft, I think that there's a lot of good quarterbacks coming in, but I think they're more so good. I think you got Caleb Williams and you got Drake May, and maybe Jaden Daniels, and then you got like Michael Penix, you got Bo Nix, you have Quinn Ewers, you have JJ. So I think that you have some guys that could probably sit behind Geno if you wanted to like try and snag one of them, you know, later on in the draft. You know, not later on, but you know,
Yeah.
in the second round. Or does Seattle have a first round pick? Do you know?
Don't know. Look, actually.
They do. Yeah, they're as of right now they're the 15th overall pick. So they're smack dab in the middle. So you could get a guy like Quinn Ewers who has the build, the athleticism, the arm talent, but just the inconsistency. So you could take him, try and develop him. You could take a guy like Michael Penix, try and develop him, get him up to speed with the game. So I think that if Seattle wants to go into the draft this year and look at a quarterback, I think there's options.
I agree with that. And while we're on it, and you mentioned his name, what do you think about Michael Penix? Do you think if he comes in to this championship game, this college football championship, on Monday, actually, it is Monday, this coming Monday, if he comes in there and does what he did against Texas, and he throws these, I mean, Michael Penix is going to throw a beautiful ball, there's no doubt. But he comes out and just nukes on this Michigan defense, which is one of the best it's top. It may be the top defense in the nation. If he comes in and goes absolutely nuts, throws for 300, 4 touchdowns, blah blah blah. Do you think it propels him to the talks of, do we take Caleb Williams or do we take Michael Penix? Because Caleb Williams, in my eyes, and it just seems like everyone else, it seems like Caleb Williams is a clear cut, but that's what they're saying. Caleb Williams is that guy that's gonna win, or be the first quarterback off the board. Do you think that it propels him up there next to Caleb Williams, and people have something to think about, like maybe Michael Penix is that guy instead of Caleb Williams? Because Caleb Williams, let's be honest, he didn't have that great of a year, and when it was crunch time, he crumbled this year.
Right.
So, do you think that Michael Penix can solidify himself and be like, "Hey, wait a minute, you guys have been sleeping on me. I'm in this top 2, top 3 quarterback talks here."
I think it's possible, man. I really do. I think the reason people are looking at Caleb Williams is, I mean, Michael Penix is athletic as well, but Caleb's young, he's athletic, but they both have good arms. And Michael Penix can sling it. He has a cannon for an arm. He just has mechanical issues, which I think could be worked out.
Yep.
But I think it's totally possible. I think that he could jump up there with your Drake Mays, with your with your Caleb Williams. I think that he could jump up there with those guys. I totally do. And I think Jaden Daniels is another guy who could also go up there and be, in consideration.
That's kind of where I'm at as well. Honestly, you said it basically what I was thinking. Just I think that Michael Penix is kind of like, hey, don't forget about me. I'm here. You know what I mean? Just because I'm getting overshadowed by Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams kind of overshadowed everyone. I think Michael Penix is out here saying like, hey, I'm out here. I got some issues, but watch me throw this ball.
I think so, man. And you got to look at that. I mean, they got Odunze, they got Jalen Polk. Like that Washington team's got some weapons, man, and he's getting the ball to him. And like I said, he can throw the ball as good as anybody. So it's hard to say right now, but I think that if he goes out there and puts on a show, I think it'll definitely shoot him up even more.
Right, right. All right, let's move on a little bit. Just the AFC playoff picture. Obviously Baltimore locked in at 1. I'm pretty sure the Chiefs are locked in at 3 with no ability to move up, and the Dolphins are locked in at 2. I think, yes, the Dolphins could lose that 2 spot and drop all the way to the 6th seed if they lose tonight against Buffalo. So this is a very big game because you go from hosting a playoff game to falling all the way to a wild card spot. Buffalo, obviously, winning you're in, or Buffalo's in if the Jaguars lose, and they can better their seeding if they win tonight against Miami.
Is the Buffalo Dolphins game, is that in Buffalo or is that in Miami?
It is in Miami.
Okay, so that works in their favor because I was like, with
Yes.
the weather how it is now, man.
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
Yeah,
It is
I know
in
it's probably worse
Miami.
up there in Buffalo.
Right, absolutely. It is in Miami, and it is tonight at 8:20 p.m.
That's gonna be a great game. I'm staying up for that one.
It's that
Could be.
game. Yeah, right. So, while with that, obviously, Buffalo's automatically in if the Jaguars lose. Do you think Buffalo's sitting there thinking, well, do we just take it and run with it, and we go into the 6th seed and we get some rest for our guys, go in because Buffalo's a pretty healthy team. They haven't had much issues. They've been pretty healthy as of late. Do you think if Jaguars lose today, do you think that Buffalo sits their starters? Or do you think Buffalo goes in and goes, give me this division title. We want these teams coming up to Buffalo in this crappy weather, in the snow, in the rain, in the cold. Or what's your thoughts? Do you think that they attack this and be aggressive, or do you think they kind of lay back if Jacksonville loses?
I think they be aggressive. I do. I think they want that home field advantage. They want it in Buffalo, and I mean it's as good as any stadium on the road, to play in if you're the home team. So yeah, I think they're going to come out. They're going to be aggressive, and maybe if they get an early lead, like a double-digit lead, maybe they'll bench the starters.
Yeah.
Or at least Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. But I'd be aggressive.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at as well. I wouldn't play the safe game. I want that division, especially playing in a outdoor, cold December game where your players are acclimated to it. And if you have someone like Miami coming to Buffalo, those players are in the sun in 60-degree weather in December. And granted, obviously, these are professional athletes. They're built for anything. They're ready for anything. But, I mean, you look at all statistics, it does take a minute to get used to that cold air, especially like Green Bay, Kansas City, Buffalo, New England. So I agree with you there. Going into this game, some great news for the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle has been upgraded to questionable. He's no longer doubtful. At the beginning of the week, he was kind of practicing, kind of wasn't. Raheem Mostert questionable as well. Obviously, the huge loss, Bradley Chubb. That's unfortunate for him. He's on the IR.
That's sad.
Uh, Javon Holland and Jerome Baker. Everyone's listed as questionable. Tyreek Hill doesn't carry an injury, and Tua doesn't carry an injury. That's huge for that team, especially if they're going to win this division. With that being said, who do you have in this game? Do you think Buffalo keeps this momentum rolling and wins this division and projects themselves to this 2 seed in the AFC, and they're hosting a playoff game? Or do you think that this high octane Miami Dolphins offense can just go rampant on the Buffalo Bills, and especially the first time they played, Buffalo throttled Miami.
Yes.
I mean, they manhandled them. It was 48-20, and it wasn't even close. The problem with Miami has been all season when they play a team that can rush the passer and they can cover on the back end. Do you think we see more of that same struggling Miami offense against a defense that's built like that? Or do you think that Mike McDaniels comes out with a game plan that sets the Miami Dolphins up for succession and to succeed against this Buffalo Bills defense? Who do you think takes this game? Miami is a 3-point underdog. Obviously, Buffalo's a 3-point favorite. Do you think that Miami comes up there, or actually Buffalo comes down and takes the win, or Miami holds strong and holds that second seed, is number 2 seed, and takes their division?
I think this is one of the harder games to kind of, make the bet on of who you think would win. I think a lot of it depends on Waddle. Javon Holland is one of the best safeties, incredibly underrated, one of the best safeties in the league. So if Waddle's not playing, if Holland's not playing, if Mostert doesn't play, I mean, they're gonna have to get Tyreek Hill the ball, get him on those quick routes, see if he can make a play, get the Vaughn A chain rolling. I think that's the only way that Miami will come out of it with against Buffalo, because right now Buffalo they're hot. Buffalo's hot right now, and
they're peaking at the right time.
Yeah, and even if you got a Jalen Waddle out there who's not 100%, that's still better than nothing, because Jalen Waddle's he's one of the best, most explosive receivers in the league.
Right.
So, man, that's tough, dude. I think Buffalo might pull this one out.
Okay.
I think it's going to be I think it's going to come down to Miami, those players, whether they play, whether they don't, because those are some big names.
Absolutely. And honestly, I think it goes the same for Buffalo, because Josh Allen hasn't been that MVP type Josh Allen, like where the ball's in his hands and he's taking games over with his legs. He's throwing all the perfect passes. He has struggled over the past couple weeks. I mean, hell, you can even say he struggled all season.
He needs to take care of the ball. That's his biggest thing.
Right. And granted, he's 33 yards away from throwing for 4,000. He has 27 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. But I think they are going to need a big role from James Cook, and they're going to need that supporting cast of receivers, whether it be Stephon, whether it be Knox at tight end. They're going to need help. I don't think they can rely on Josh Allen right now. Something just seems off with him this year. And I think they're going to need a big game from Cook and maybe a big game from the tight end or one of those receivers, Gabe Davis, Stephon, for them to squeak it out. For me personally, I may be betting with my heart because I am a Steeler fan, but I'm leaning on the Dolphins to give a bounce back and prove to the entire NFL that they are the real deal. They can play these good teams and beat these good teams. I want
to see Miami win.
I think this is a prove it game. Kind of because Mike McDaniel is kind of like under the fire, not under the fire of losing his job or nothing, but he's under the fire of, hey, Mike McDaniel's, you're destroying the teams you're supposed to, but when you play these teams the going gets tough, you guys aren't doing anything. You're getting stomped on. So I think it's a prove it game. Miami has something to prove, and the Bills, obviously, it would be a very, very disappointment season if they don't get in the playoffs. Granted, with the Jaguars losing right now, they're actually on the 27-yard line of the Tennessee Titans, down 15 points. They're automatically in. But let's just wipe that game off and say that the Buffalo Bills need this game to get in. I think that it's going to be a dogfight, knowing that both of these teams are a prove it type game where the Bills got to prove that they belong, and the Miami Dolphins got to prove that they are one of the best. So, I agree with you on the Dolphins standpoint, and I agree with you on the Tyreek Hill is going to have to make plays if they're going to get squeak it out. But I think that this could be one of them games where it's a last second field goal that ends up winning this game for either team.
I agree. I think that it really levels the playing field. Like I said, that's a tough matchup to go through, man, especially when you factor in the injuries and that. And I think Mike McDaniels is probably locked in. I mean, it's a division game, so I'm sure Mike McDaniels is locked in, trying to be like, okay, what do we need to do? What didn't we do well last time? How can we attack this Buffalo defense? How can we, do you have Jalen Ramsey? Do you have him shadow Stephon Diggs?
Right.
I think that, yeah, because I think I love Xavier Howard, but I think it's a little bit of a mismatch because he's a big corner. So I think it's a little bit of a mismatch if you put him on Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
So maybe have Jalen Ramsey kind of shadow him around. I think this game can go either way. Like I said, I want the Dolphins to win. So I love Mike McDaniels, Tua, Jalen, Tyreek, all them guys, and like I would like to see Miami win, but I still think the Bills are going to pull it out.
Squeak it out. Okay. I respect it. Oh yeah, and just mention, I'm glad Tyreek Hill and his family, they're all safe. And after that fire that happened at his house, glad
That was crazy. Yeah,
things can be replaced, but family members, his family being safe, that's the biggest thing. So happy to hear that. Hate hearing breaking news like that coming out of anywhere. I don't care who it is. It's just that's a scary thing. House fire like that. But moving on, I want to touch base just on the playoff bracket. If it stopped right now, every game stopped. It was the end of the day. This is Monday morning. All the scores say the way they were. Right now, we would have the Ravens #1 seed, the Browns at the 5 seed, the Texans at the 4 seed, the Bills at the 6 seed, the Chiefs at the 3 seed, the Steelers at the 2 seed or 7 seed, and the Dolphins at the 2 seed. The team I want to touch base on, and we touched base on it last video. I know we've been talking for 45 minutes, but there's a lot to cover. We were basically cramming 2 days that we wanted to talk into an hour or so. The Cleveland Browns, obviously playing a game. They can't move up. They can't move down. They're locked into that 5 seed. The Cleveland Browns with Joe Flacco at the helm.
Joe Cole.
If let's play it out. The Browns beat the Texans, so they move on. The Dolphins. Actually, let's go with the Bills beat the Chiefs. They're the 6th seed. They move on. Now let's go with the Chiefs beat the Bills. Chiefs beat the Bills. They get it right. They figure it out. They move on. The Steelers lose a close one to the Dolphins. So you have the Ravens versus the Browns, the Dolphins versus the Chiefs. As a Ravens fan, are you afraid of the Cleveland Browns coming into Baltimore?
Yes. I am. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really am, man. That Browns team they've been hot lately. I mean, they've been white hot. And I mean, it's Joe Flacco, man. He took us to a Super Bowl and everything, and he did his thing in Baltimore. And like to look at it from like his perspective, he's gonna want to go in there and he's gonna want to beat the Ravens. But yeah, we we just gotta want to beat him as bad because right now, I mean, it could just be a flash in the pan thing, but Joe's playing really good football. So I think that the Browns are a team that people should be kind of weary of, including Baltimore.
That's kind of where I'm at. I know that Joe's been turning the ball over, and obviously the Ravens being the most opportunistic and get the most turnovers out of any team in the NFL, that will benefit the Ravens. And I think that that's what they will need to do is force Joe Flacco to make bad throws and get them interceptions. And they have to get points off them interceptions because Joe Flacco's turned the ball over a shit ton, but teams aren't capitalizing on them turnovers, so they're still winning the game.
Yeah, their defense is playing lights out.
Yeah, and this is the benefit that plays in Baltimore's favor. I seen a statistic the other day that the Browns defense has given up 30 points or more on the road, and they've only given up like 16 at home. That is insane.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the same defense. No one's missing.
Yeah.
There's no one missing. But damn, how are you the best defense at home and you can't stop a cold on the road? But once again, it goes back to the old adage. It's a divisional game. These teams know each other very well. They've played twice already. It's the Browns and Ravens. I mean, it's anyone's game, but I think if the Ravens can play that dominant football, I think the Ravens can then pull that out with a 7-point victory, 14-point victory. I don't want to sit here and dwell on it, but man, how about it's just the story that the Browns, man. I love to hear it. Joe Flacco back in the league, just going crazy. The Browns being in, and honestly, I really hope that Pittsburgh gets in just for the sheer sake of the AFC North is still king of the NFL. That is the toughest division in the NFL, hands down. You can't put any of the other teams into that division and they would succeed like these three teams have for decades. I mean, well, the Browns more on the newer side, and the same with the Bengals, but for them to have three teams in the playoffs again is just it's monumental. It's insane to have that strong of a division that these three teams have to battle or four teams have to battle twice a year, year in and year out.
Yeah, and how crazy is it to think like at the beginning of the year you're kind of like, you know, you forget about the Browns. You know, you're like, you know, Bengals, Ravens, Steelers. Like you're just kind of like in that mindset. You're like Browns or whatever, you know, but Browns are doing their thing, man. Yeah, they're doing their thing.
Yeah. Let's stay right here real quick. Real quick on the touch base, and we talked about like going in and the Steelers and making a run, blah blah blah. If it stayed the way it is, do the Steelers have a chance against Miami? Against that insanely fast receiving core, insanely fast running backs, do the Steelers have a chance without TJ Watt?
Oh, without TJ Watt, yeah, I was sitting here thinking in my head, I was like, oh, TJ, absolutely, because you know, the offensive line kind of stinks, but um, mm, it's just keeping up with those receivers, man, and that offense putting points up. Uh, them losing Bradley Chubb is kind of a big blow to Miami as far as pass rush goes. So I think the Steelers could be competitive, but yeah, that's a tough one there.
As a fan, obviously I want to say Steelers blow them out. As a realistic fan, I think the Steelers try to play a lot of zone. Tua being the quarterback that he is, being very accurate. Unless they can force turnovers, I don't think the Steelers stand a chance.
Right.
TJ Watt's in there. TJ Watt can set the edge with the best of them. So the run game isn't getting outside on his side at least. Alex Highsmith has been playing tremendous football. He's been setting the edge very well, pushing everything back inside. Larry Ogunjobi has been absolutely a monster at the D tackle. And Keanu Benton, who has been playing, rotating in and out. I don't think that the Dolphins run all over Pittsburgh, but I think that they give them more than they can handle in the pass game. And that's just where we're going to leave that. So, NFC side, you're looking at see if there's any. The New Orleans Saints are handling business against the Falcons. They are up 31-17.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, so they're handling business. They're taking care of what they have to, and obviously they need a Buccaneers loss, but the Buccaneers are up 9-0 on the Carolina Panthers, which is not that surprising. Um, the Jacksonville Jaguars scored a touchdown, so it's 28-10 or 28-20. Um, Titans have the ball right now. They're trying to go down and get some more. These afternoon games, I think the biggest one obviously is your Buffalo Miami. Dallas obviously trying to win the division. We touched base on Philly trying to win the division and stay in that 2-3 seed. The Rams are locked in already. Um, let's talk about the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. Actually, let's go with that. The Chicago Bears Green Bay Packers game.
I openly
They
That
asked
should be a good game, honestly.
they obviously Packers or the Bears eliminated from playoff contention, but another division game. The Packers need to win and they're in. But the Bears have been rolling. The
They have,
Packers,
man.
the Packers are going to be without AJ Dillon and Christian Watson. Me personally, I think even though it's in Lambeau, I honestly think that the Bears have a real shot here at
I do too.
winning this
100%.
game outright. I really do. Breaking news. I don't know if it's really breaking if you have NFL football on, but Ryan Tannehill showed his true colors and just threw a pick.
Oh, Ryan.
And the Jaguars are on the Tennessee 28-yard line now. So there's that. That's not great news for Steeler fans, but we'll see what happens. The Bears they have really strung together some wins. They have been playing very good football, offensive and defensively. That connection between Justin Fields and DJ Moore has been tremendous. Uh, we talked about Jordan Love and that young team last time we had a little podcast. I feel that the Bears have a slight edge in this game with the ability of Justin Fields scrambling. I mean, he's their leading rusher. I know Khalil Herbert is questionable with a back injury, whether he plays or not. They are going to be without Jalen Johnson, their cornerback, but Justin Fields has really put that pressure on the Bears, I guess you could say, on because I know early on it was we're writing off Justin Fields. We're gonna try and move on. We're gonna go a different route. But towards the end of the season, Justin Fields really has turned it on and has played very good ball. And they've strung some wins together. And what better way to spoil the Packers' chances than to beat them outright at home? Um, what's your thoughts with Justin Fields and that Bears team? Do you think that they ride him out for another year? Do you think that they are kind of like, yeah, Justin Fields experiment's over? Um, where's your thought process with this team, and what's your thoughts on this game at 4:30? Do you think that they have a chance at winning?
Is this the final year of Justin's contract, or does he still have another year?
Question.
Yeah, because I don't know if he was going to be a free agent or if he was. Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure.
I think he has one more year.
Yeah, see, that's tough, man. Yeah, with the way he's playing, man, it's like they got two top 10 picks. They got the first and the 10th. So do you build piece? Do you put piece around him, or do you just, like you said, just end the experiment? But I mean, with the way he's playing now, which we've seen this out of Justin Fields before,
Yes.
where he'll look like just, I mean, he looks like one of the not the top quarterback in the league, but he's just explosive. He's a playmaker, and his ability to extend plays and his scrambling ability is uncanny. So we've seen this out of Justin Fields before. It's just getting him to just continue to develop as a passer. And man, that's tough. Yeah, like do you use that number one pick on a Caleb Williams or a Drake May? or do you use it on like a Marvin Harrison, or do you use it? That's
Yeah, right. Do you give Justin Fields another star-studded receiver?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot that they could do with that. I mean, the cards are they're in the Bills' hands. I mean, they can do whatever they want. But I mean, the Bears, they can do whatever they want. So, man, yeah, it's tough. It's tough because, like you were saying, man, at the beginning of the year, it was kind of like a foregone conclusion that Fields was out of there.
Right, absolutely. What do you think about tonight? Do you think the Bears take the Packers in Lambeau, or do you think the Packers squeak this one out at home and stay alive with the playoffs?
I think the Bears. I think you're right. I mean, like we talked about before, and I'm not going to get into it heavy, but I think that the Packers are built for the future, and they're playing really good right now. But I think the Bears right now, they're on a roll, and like you said, divisional game, go into Lambeau. There's nothing to make the Bears happier than just flat out just knocking the Packers out of the playoffs altogether. So
I
I'm
agree.
going with the Bears.
I agree with that. Is there anything else you want to touch base on before picks for today on the sports betting side?
Um, no, not really. No, I think we pretty much touched on everything.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think we covered pretty much all your playoff teams and scenarios going on and everything like that. So let's dive into the sports betting side of it, which is my favorite part. Yesterday went 2-0. That video was supposed to be out, but obviously being in the hospital wasn't able to be. 2-0 in the NFL, 2-0 in the NBA, so 4-0 total. Today we're gonna drop some picks. This video is live right now, so it's gonna be up on Kick, YouTube, Twitch. There's all kind of places that anyone can watch it. If you want to fast forward to the end to just catch the picks to see what I'm picking. If you want to tail it, and if you do tail it, make sure make sure you drop a like and follow, subscribe to the channel, check us out. As far as picks today, there's not a ton, but I am taking the Bears +3. I think that's a very inflated line for Chicago's Bears team that has been absolutely rolling. I'm taking them to cover the 3 points. I am going to be taking. Here are my notes here. I'm going to be taking the Bears +3. I'm going to be taking the Dolphins +3 to cover that spread as well. I'm going to take the Chargers -3 against the Kansas City Chiefs because no Kansas City Chiefs players are playing. Those are my 3 picks. You got Bears +3. You can actually take the money line with the Bears. I truly think that they win outright. So Bears +3, Bears money line, Miami +3, Los Angeles Chargers -3. Those are our picks for today. Appreciate everyone tuning in. We had a couple people watching live on the different platforms, which is pretty cool. Appreciate anyone that stopped in, checked us out. Hope you enjoyed the talks. Hopefully, no more hospital visits for the baby mama. I think she's sick and tired and over it. So hopefully everything's on the uphill climb now after having baby Declan. But with that being said, Steven, appreciate the phone call. Appreciate you always being here, shooting the shit about football per usual. And anything you want to say? Thanks. Later. Peace out. Anything like that?
No, I just want to say too, it'd be cool to get some feedback from people if they're watching it and stuff, and kind of, if you agree with what we're saying, or there's you have, differing opinions or something like that, then yeah, feel free to, hit us in the comments or something like that and we'll try to address them as often as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing beats a good debate. So I mean, yeah, I mean, hell, people want to put in comments and they have valid stuff, not just stupid bonehead comments. I mean, hell, we can get you on the phone call. So
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think it'd be fun for them too. It'd be, interactive in that.
especially going into this these playoffs, that'd be awesome to do. So with that being said, we appreciate everyone. Thank you, everyone. We are Brandon and Steven with BS Draftcast, and all we do is bullshit about